use. Please ensure mobile phones are on silent or are switched off. Additionally, we will be using e-voting on the Modern Gov app for this meeting. Please could members therefore ensure they are logged in and ready to use the app. I'd like to remind everyone present that this meeting will be broadcast live to the internet and will be capable of repeated viewing. The whole of the meeting will be recorded, except where there are confidential or exempt items. If you make a representation of the meeting, you'll be deemed by the Council to have consented to being recorded. By entering this meeting as a speaker, you are also consenting to being recorded by the Council and to the possible use of sound recordings for webcasting and or training purposes. The Council, members of the public and press may record, film, photograph or broadcast this meeting when the public and press are not lawfully excluded. So if I can just turn off my phone, I do apologise, but I was working beforehand, so I just need to make sure that gets switched off. Thank you. So, introductions. Officers attending the meeting today are Kay Sanders, Licensing Officer, Catherine Green, Licensing Officer, Nigel DeLew, our Legal Advisor, and Karen Sayer, our Governance Officer. So if I can move to the agenda, please. Do we have any apologies?
Thank you, Chair. We've received apologies from Councillor Flatman, Councillor Pratt and Councillor Stringer.
Thank you very much. Do we have any declarations of interests by councillors? No, thank you. Can we confirm the minutes of the meeting held on the 16th of August? Are there any points regarding the accuracy of the minutes? Not that I can see. Can I have a proposer and a seconder, please? Councillor Muller. And seconder, please. Councillor Brewster. Thank you. Sorry. Get rid of all these phones. So, can we do an electronic vote, please, to the minutes? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Councillors, could you please open the vote in the modern.gov app by clicking on the plus sign in the top right of the agenda screen. This vote should now be open. That's 6 votes for, Chair, so that's carried.
Thank you very much indeed. And I'll sign that at the end of the meeting. Thank you. Can we have any notification of petitions in accordance with the Council's petition scheme?
None received, Chair.
Thank you. Questions by councillors?
None received, Chair.
Thank you. So we now move on to the first item, which is the MLR 21-6 Gambling Act 2005 Statement of Principles, Statutory 3-year revision. So can I ask Kay to introduce the report to us, please? Thank you, Kay Sanders.
Thank you, Chair. This report refers to policy setting under the Gambling Act 2005. Since January 2007, local licensing authorities have been responsible for functions under the Gambling Act 2005. Including issuing of licences and permits for gambling and gaming premises and associated matters. Section 349 of the 2005 Act requires licensing authorities to prepare and publish a statement of the higher-level principles it will apply when dispensing its various gambling functions. The statement of principles must by law be reviewed and republished every 3 years or sooner if so required. This year, the authority is due to revisit the statement that has been in effect since January 2019. And this report seeks the approval of a suitably revised version in order that the statutory consultation period may then commence on its content. The redrafted statement attached as Appendix A to this report contains amendments from the 2019 published version. These revisions have been collated in a summary document and is attached to this report as Appendix B. The Gambling Commission revised national guidance document to the licensing authorities originally published in 2015 as amended in April 2021 has influenced some of the revised draft content when formulating the Statement of Principles revision. The legislation requires the licensing authority to consult widely upon its draft Statement of Principles document with stakeholders before finalising and publishing the document in January 2022 as set by order of the Secretary of State. The sixth statement shall take effect for a 3-year period from the 31st of January 2022 through to the 31st of January 2025. This policy that is before the committee is for further consultation as full council adopted the no casino resolution on the 23rd of September 2021. The duty to reconsult with the relevant stakeholders and interested parties will ensure that the amended Statement of Principles is not open to a legal challenge. The recommendation to council is that the draft revision of the Gambling Act 2005 Statement of Principles document attached as Appendix A be approved for consultation. Further, that the relevant officers proceed with the commencement of the period of statutory consultation in accordance with the Gambling Act 2005 legislation and regulations. It is a statutory requirement to review and re-adopt the Council's gambling policy. That concludes my summary.
Thank you very much for that. Now, I wasn't here at the last time when we've possibly had some debate on this before, but is there any further debate today? It's all new to us, and anybody like to enter into the debate, please? Councillor Muller?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I've read through the report and I'm sort of actually quite happy with the report. There are a few typos which you are aware of, which I've pointed out, which need to be amended. But apart from that, taking into consideration everything, I'm more than happy with this and would be happy to propose that we accept the recommendation as put forward. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for that. Do I have a seconder of that before I come to Councillor Otton? Councillor Otton.
Yes, I'm more than happy to second that. Actually, we did have quite a good debate about whether we should put forward the proposal to council about we do not wish to see casinos in the district, and for very good reasons, particularly about our concern about people addicted to gambling and obviously the impact on children and families. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a proposer and a seconder. Would anybody like to speak to the motion, please? Yes, Councillor.
I'm trying to disentangle myself
yes,
from my
I know,
mask
it's
and
all
my
wires
glasses.
and everything, isn't
I
it?
just
Yes.
wanted to say that I, having read through it, I have no objections, and I think it's a perfectly sensible set of updates, and that I'm happy to support it.
Thank you very much indeed. Any further comments? Councillor Brewster?
No, I think I mentioned soon that I'm quite happy to take the paper through and it's an acceptable statement.
Thank you. Right. I'll just pass. Do you want to comment at all, Councillor Epping-Young, or not? No need.
Thank you, Chair. I think everyone else has said what I would like to say, so I think it's clear that the changes are driven by the previous resolutions we made about casinos, and it all sort of falls into place, so I'm happy to support.
Right. Well, I wasn't here at the last meeting, but I have read through the documents, and there were some updates and things regarding assistance dogs and things like that in the new documents, so I think it's been well thought through. So if we may now go to the vote, please.
Thank you, Chair. So the recommendation is that the draft revision Gambling Act 2005 Statement of Principles document attached as Appendix A to the report be approved for consultation. Further, that the relevant officers proceed with the commencement of a period of statutory consultation in accordance with the Gambling Act 2005 legislation and regulations. Councillors, could you please open the vote in the modern.gov app, and the item should now show in blue. Thank you.
Yeah, keep going. It needs a bit more umph.
Sorry?
Mine didn't to start with.
Can't start with, no. Okay.
Do you want to take the vote?
Yeah, I can take
Councillor
your vote
Hopkins.
verbally.
Sorry?
I can take your vote verbally, Councillor.
It's being very slow. Do you want to log out and log back in again, perhaps? I don't know.
That's 6 votes for, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed. That's carried. Thank you for that. Thank you, Kay. So now we ask you, Kay, to introduce the report to the committee regarding the new Hackney carriage and private hire vehicle licensing policy. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of the report is to report back to the Licensing and Regulatory Committee the outcome of a full targeted and public consultation which ran between the 20th of August 2021 and the 16th of September 2021 in respect of the Hackney carriage and private hire vehicle licensing policy for the controlled zone of Mid-Suffolk District Council. All options to be considered are contained within the body of this report. On the 21st of July 2020, the DFT published its long-awaited statutory standards for taxi and private hire licensing. The new standards brought in a raft of recommendations and requirements which Council must have regard to in exercising their functions under Hackney carriage and private hire vehicle licensing. The standards also replaced relevant sections of the best practice guidance issued by the DFT in 2010. Where there is a conflict between the standards and best practice, the standards will take precedence. The DFT will update the best practice guidance for the councils in due course. However, in the meantime, it expects councils to adopt its recommendations in the new standards document so that past failings of some licensing regimes are never repeated. Whilst the focus of the new statutory standards and private hire vehicle standards is on protecting children and vulnerable adults, all passengers will benefit from the recommendations contained in it. There is consensus that the Common Core minimum standards are required to better regulate the taxi and private hire vehicles sector. The overarching aim of the statutory standards is public protection. Following the consultation exercise, Mid-Suffolk received 12 responses. These are attached to this report as Appendix B. Officers' responses to the comments from consultees are attached to this report as Appendix C. For ease and reference, some common themes have been colour-coded. From the responses received, the changes made are attached as Appendix D. The recommendations are that the post-consultation draft Hackney carriage and private hire vehicle licence and policy attached as Appendix A be approved, and that committee makes a recommendation to Cabinet that the Hackney carriage and private hire vehicle licence and policy document be adopted. And if I may, Chair, could I give councillors a brief update on electric vehicles?
Yes, please do.
The team attended a webinar on engaging with the taxi industry on switching to low-emission vehicles in September. The main point from this meeting was that the councils involved in the meeting that were actually being discussed were able to move forward with EVs and infrastructure because their councils have employed individual officers to deal with the transition to EVs. We had a meeting with the Environment Statutory Officer from Suffolk County Council on the 13th of October. There is a community grant available for infrastructure, but this is for the public and the community, not for commercial and business. He referred to a firm in Norwich, ABC, which have a total fleet of EVs and have installed infrastructure at their own base. This is a very large company, I think if I'm right, about 200 vehicles. This is not applicable to Mid-Suffolk. We have two main offices in Stowmarket. They're very small. They don't have anywhere to park their vehicles at their offices to install their own infrastructure. We do have an electric vehicle actually being plated on Monday. And I have asked the gentleman to keep a record of the costs, customer comments, etc., where he can charge it up for our information, and he's happy to do that. There's no plans for rapid charges in the district, which is what taxi drivers would require. A fast charger will probably take about 2 hours to charge, which is not practical for the trade. And our nearest rapid charger is Copdock. The cost of the electric vehicles is repaid by the low running costs of the service charges, and also customer comments are positive. It's a smooth ride. They're enjoying the electric vehicles, and they ask if there is an electric vehicle to be used because they prefer it. We're attending another webinar on the 21st of October. This is relating to charge point procurement for local authorities. So we're hoping that may help in sourcing some income to get some infrastructure for the drivers, for the taxi drivers. The other Suffolk Suffolk councils do not have EV in their policies, although they do mention and they encourage it, that they don't actually have a policy on electric vehicles. Thank you, Chair.
That's very helpful. I just must apologise. I jumped ahead of myself when I made a comment earlier on. We're now on to this thing. So, sorry, my comment earlier is not relevant to the previous decision. Just before we do go on, we've all been given sight of the potential course that we would be expecting. It is a legal requirement, isn't it?
The course isn't, but parts of the course are.
Parts of the course are. And I got to page 72 and I was absolutely fascinated with what was in there because I felt it sort of gave an insight in what we should be doing with our own vehicles, you know, checking them for winter and all sorts of things like that. So I don't wish to denigrate any of the remarks that people have made here, that they've said, you know, they've been dealing with this for all their life, they know what they're doing, and some people feel a little bit anxious about it. And also people who are managers, they're saying, well, why should we do it? Well, if you're a manager, you should never ask somebody to do something that you haven't done yourself. So I hope you've all had a chance to read a little bit of the potential course that these drivers may operate on. And obviously their comments relate to their anxieties on it. So I just thought I'd pass that out. And one thing I have suggested is maybe our officers might like to go on the course if we've got enough training funding so that they know who they're talking to and what they're talking about. But that would be something for senior management to dip in the pocket and help such a small team to attain that. So, sorry, I've sort of rather jumped the gun and taken a bit of the starter of it. Councillor Otten, you have your hand up.
Just a couple of questions. Paragraph 11 about, obviously we'd like to encourage them to convert to hybrid or electric vehicles, and therefore who will be responsible for providing any charging points? Is that down, will the council itself, in order to encourage them to do so? And the other question is, on MOTs, I'm sure I'm not the only one whose MO get caught out, because we don't get reminded now unless you ask to be reminded about having an MOT. So I just wonder, I couldn't see that in here under obviously the maintenance of the vehicles, etc.
Okay.
As part of renewals or new applications, they have to provide a copy of their MOT. Obviously, the onus is on them to remember to renew. We used to send out letters, but that was when we were a larger team. We just don't have the capacity to send out letters to every single driver to remind them to get their MOT done. But we have sight of it at renewals and for a new application.
I suppose the only thing is that you can't actually tax a car if your MOT is not necessarily run out, but within 14 days of your car tax. So I suppose they would then have to be reminded by that. Yeah, okay.
Thank you for that, both. Councillor, oh, sorry, I beg your pardon.
What
Yes,
about
do
the
carry on.
charging?
As I was just saying, that we are researching that. We're not aware of any funds from within the council at the moment, but it is something we're working on. As discussed with Councillor Stringer last time, we're going to research. We've got another meeting on the 21st, which delves into procurement for local authorities for the infrastructure. So hopefully that will give us some hints and tips on the way forward.
And I think that's very positive, that with such a small team, they have been trying to look into that. And one suggestion I had in our briefing was maybe overall, rather than leaving it to a small team who aren't experienced in procurement of things like that, that maybe the council might consider that they can find a procurement officer, not us as members, but somebody needs to look into it for planning and everything like that.
Well, I'm sure you know, as part of the economic development team, there must be somebody in there that is looking at that for you.
Well, we need to link up with that, but take it forward, definitely, Councillor Otten. Did I see Councillor Eppingham? Did you have your hand up? Yes, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Actually, Councillor Otten, in her final remarks, did pick up the point I was going to make, which is that you can't actually tax your car if you don't have a valid MOT, and clearly that's a process that everyone has to go through. And also, I think, you know, while I appreciate some of the concerns that the consultees have made about the age of and conditions of their vehicles, if you look at the trend of the course that they're being asked to undertake from a practical standpoint, that's something we all should be doing to keep our vehicles in good running order. So I'm not entirely sympathetic with those views of theirs if they're doing a proper job. And actually, I think, you know, we have to see it in the round in terms of their own safety as well as the safety of the public that they're carrying. And I think with regard to moving to electric vehicles, I mean, obviously this is something that is a challenge for all of us and the country as a whole. And the infrastructure for that is still pretty nascent. And there are lots of concerns about the fact that there's such a variety of them. And I think government needs to step in and regulate and put a standard in. You know, a bit like you can't go to the petrol station and put a diesel pump in your petrol one, or the other way around. I can't remember. But anyway, it needs to be regularized so that, you know, we have a standard infrastructure charging system. And I know that, for example, that we are putting some charging points in some of our car parks, and I guess that's a program that needs to be accelerated if we're going to encourage more and more people to use electric vehicles. And obviously we are completely aware that in less than 10 years' time, they're going to stop selling petrocarbon vehicles. So, you know, I think that the trade in itself is moving in that direction, and I travel around Europe a lot, and I see many taxi firms only operating hybrid or electric vehicles only. So I think we can't kind of resist the tide, if you like.
Some very good points made there indeed, and you know, the car industry needs to get together to make sure the plugs are the same, as you quite rightly point out. So very good points, thank you. Anyone else wishing to make comment? Councillor Brewster, yes, thank you.
Sorry, Councillor, is your microphone on?
Yeah, when I was reading through the papers, I thought we will get some adverse comments about the training and the West Suffolk College stuff. I think that's probably quite a short-sighted view, because the benefit will come to the owners of the taxi company in terms of how their drivers will be really up to speed, you know, rather than I'm sure there are some areas where they need to be that. Yes, the other thing about the electric charging, and yes, I mean, obviously there will be some charging points. I also picked up on the taxi ranks, and certainly in Stowmarket there could be, I think, some larger areas for them to park up when they need to. However, I think the team have done a fantastic job. They've obviously worked very hard on this, with the amount of explanations for these items coming through, and I really do applaud them for having picked that up, because once you start reading those, you can start to see the benefits of what this will bring forward for us. I have just one little point, which is a little bit of a typo actually, but On the Appendix A, the first paragraph, I would like to see on the second line, district councils and not district council. I think that might have been confusing some of the readers of it, thinking that we were already, you know.
Yes, yeah.
Thank you.
Probably a little bit superfluous, as everybody else has said such very excellent things, but I just wanted to second Councillor Brewster's comment about the really comprehensive and very sensitive responses to the consultation. That I think that they're so helpful, so excellent, so thank you very much for that. And also the taxi rank situation, we've got to keep that uppermost in our minds. Those of us who have the power to do something about it must sort out more spaces. I thought that that pointing out that people aren't being encouraged to use taxis to get to supermarkets was a very sensible thing, that if you're going to decide to give up your car, the supermarket trip is one of the things that you really do need some help with. So that was good to see. Thank you.
Yes, I think all the points are very relevant, and I hope that the taxi drivers themselves, if they're watching this now, do appreciate that, I mean, I go through this as everybody else does, but our officers have given us such a clear direction. But not only that, they have taken on board some of the concerns and altered one or two things. So it's not as if we're, you know, just, it's not a tick exercise. They've worked extremely hard. And so I do hope the taxi drivers do think and appreciate that we're not ignoring them at all, far from it. So on that basis, if no one else wishes to say anything...
May I just say one?
Yes, please
Sorry,
do.
I just
Yes.
want to say, thank you for your comments. The whole team, I've just said the whole team worked on this. It's been a long piece of work, but we're all involved. That's all I want to say. Thanks.
Thank you for that. So I need a proposer. Oh, two hands go up. Councillor Muller and then Councillor Epping-Young. Councillor Muller?
Yes, I'd like to thank the team as well for the excellent piece of work on both these documents, and I'm more than happy to support the recommendations as shown on page 67 of the papers.
So you're proposing it, yeah. And Councillor Epping-Young?
Very happy to second, Chair.
Thank you very much. In that case, then, may we move to a vote, please?
Thank you, Chair. Recommendations 3.1 and 3.2 as in the paper. Excuse me, rustling. Councillors, if you could please open the vote in the modern.gov app, and in the voting tab, the vote for this item should now show in blue. That's 6-4, Chair. It's carried.
Thank you very much indeed, and thank you everybody once again. So that is carried. I'm now able to close the meeting. Thank you very much indeed for all your attendance and input. Thank you.